Final Fantasy XIV Online is set in a magical world, a land filled with diverse landscapes, rich lore, and a variety of creatures. The atmosphere is deeply immersive, combining high fantasy elements with detailed environments and a gripping storyline. The world is expansive, featuring different regions. This could be a forest, arid deserts, and bustling cities. The game is also primarily an MMORPG, with a focus on player interaction, completing missions, and large-scale battles. One of the coolest aspects is the in-depth character customization and job system, which allows you to switch between different classes and jobs without creating a new character, but we'll get further into that later on. Now for the main gameplay, it's all about completing quests, battling a ton of enemies, and exploring the vast open world. That also means that the game will cater to many kinds of players. If you enjoy solo play, group content, and large-scale raids, this might be a game for you. You can also level up your characters, unlock new abilities, and gather resources to craft items. For example, a typical gameplay session might look like this. You start by accepting a quest from an NPC, where you have to travel to some kind of location and defeat a group of enemies. But along the way, you might find some resources like a herb or a mine, which can be used for crafting. And after completing the mission, you'll return to the NPC and receive your reward. This could be XP, gear, or in-game currency. Furthermore, the game starts with basic mechanics. This could be very simple combat and very straightforward quests. However, as you progress, you'll unlock way more advanced mechanics. Now here are the core gameplay mechanics. The first one is questing. This is the primary way that you progress throughout the game. Now these quests can come in many different forms. This could be the main storyline that will advance the central narrative, but there's also a ton of side quests that will offer additional lore and more rewards. The next mechanic is the combat, which requires a lot of strategy, as you must use your abilities and tactics. And not only that, you must also use your class-specific skills. And the combat will require managing your resources. This could be your mana or stamina, and even positioning has a big part. The next mechanic is the crafting and gathering. You can take on both crafting but also gathering classes. If you're a crafter, you can create weapons, armor, and potions, while gathering will involve collecting resources from the environment. And all these recipes for crafting will start very simple, but of course become more complex as you progress and level up your crafting skills, which in hand also requires more rare material that the gathering classes must find. The next feature is the dungeons and raids, and these are a massive part of the game. They are group-based content that requires you to team up to tackle really challenging environments and bosses. Dungeons will usually be a small party, whereas a raid can be a lot of players. And of course, the more players you have, it will require more coordination and strategy, as every player must fulfill their role. This could be a damage dealer, a tank, or a healer. These dungeons and raids are typically what rewards the most powerful gear and valuable resources, and can be very difficult. But besides that, there are also many more activities. This could be PvP, there's housing and decoration, and a lot of seasonal events, which in total adds to a ton of creativity and replayability. And that leads me into my next point, the progression. Now the progression system will guide you from early game to end game through a series of quests, leveling, and unlocking new content. So here's how it kind of works. In the early game, you focus more on learning the basic mechanics, completing introductory quests, and leveling up your character. And this early game is designed to be accessible with very straightforward missions and easier enemies. And you typically just follow the main storyline, which will also give you a good understanding of the game world and your role within it. However, as you reach higher levels and complete more of the storyline, the game will have more complex content. This could be the challenging dungeons or raids we talked about earlier, but there's also high-level crafting recipes. And this endgame is where players will spend most of their time trying to perfect their gear, mastering their class, and tackling the most difficult content. At this point, it's also a good idea to join a guild, so you can all help each other in completing all these activities. But the game is not just about leveling. The game has a main storyline, and it's a very significant part of the game. It provides a deep narrative experience, and it's also structured into multiple expansions, where every expansion adds a new chapter to the story. And aside from the main story, there are also numerous side quests. These will often provide additional lore, character development, and a lot of good rewards. They're also really good additional content, so you're not just running from A to B, only doing the main storyline. And the side quests are a really good way of getting you into the open world and exploring that as well. Which brings me to the next point, the map and exploration. The game world is massive, with a ton of different regions, all of them with their own environments, monsters, and quests. And this also means that exploration is highly encouraged, and it's how you find valuable resources, hidden quests, and very rare monsters. And honestly, one of the best features is the job system. This allows you to switch between different classes and jobs on a single character, unlike many other MMOs. In most MMOs, when you start, you choose a class, and then you are locked into that class unless you create an entirely new character. However, in Final Fantasy, you can swap between classes and jobs by simply changing your equipped weapon. For example, equipping a sword might turn you into a gladiator, while putting on a staff could make you a conjurer. And this flexibility right here is what allows you to experience every aspect of the game without needing to start over just to try something new. Furthermore, Furthermore, as you progress in every class, you'll also unlock advanced jobs, and these offer more specialized roles. For instance, a gladiator can become a paladin, where you can tank. Similarly, a conjurer can evolve into a white mage, where you focus more on healing. So in most MMOs, you usually end up with 3 to 9 characters just to try every class and different roles. But in Final Fantasy, you could stick with just the one, as you're not restricted to just one class. You can adapt your role as needed, which is really good when you're trying to join parties and raids, where you won't be limited by your class choice. Now, the next point I want to talk about is difficulty and the trial and error approach. The game is actually quite balanced, and it's designed to be friendly to newcomers and provides a good learning curve, where as a new player you won't feel overwhelmed, but it'll also offer enough challenge that keeps you engaged. So for new players, the game does a great job of easing you into the mechanics. Your early quests are very straightforward. It'll teach you the basics of combat, crafting, and exploration. The main storyline also acts as a kind of tutorial and will guide you through the game's systems step by step. But of course, as you progress throughout the game, but also the storyline, you'll encounter more complex mechanics and tougher enemies. Now don't worry, despite this guidance, the game doesn't really hold your hand too much. You will still need to figure out a lot of things on your own. This could be the strategies for different boss fights or dungeons, and especially the first time entering a new dungeon or fighting a boss you never fought before, it will require a lot of adapting on the fly, as you might be experiencing completely new mechanics. This also means that there is something to do for everyone. If you're a more casual player, you can focus on crafting, gathering, and social events. You could take your time exploring the world and completing a ton of side quests without feeling rushed. If you're a more hardcore player, there are really tough raids and endgame content that will require a ton of teamwork and high level of skills, which can be very challenging but also rewarding. The game has really beautiful graphics that bring the fantasy world to life. The landscapes are detailed, from a lush forest to a snowy mountain, and even the character models are also well designed, with a ton of customization options. But one of my favorite things is the game music, and it is a really standout feature. Each area and every event has its own theme, which creates a really memorable and immersive experience for every area you go through. Furthermore, the sound effects are also top notch. This could be seen from the clash of swords to the ambient noises in towns and dungeons. And overall, this combination of the graphics and music creates a really engaging atmosphere, where the world feels alive and vibrant. So whether you're running through and exploring a bustling city or a quiet little village, the game's attention to detail really draws you into the world and helps a ton with feeling like you're on a real adventure, making every moment feel significant. And now for the pros and cons. The first pro is the community. For an MMO, the game has a really friendly and helpful player community, where the social aspect makes the game a lot more enjoyable. Now there are of course still tryhards and toxic people, but the majority are really wholesome. The next pro is the very frequent updates. The game receives really regular updates that'll add new content, fix known bugs, and overall improve the experience. And this really helps with keeping the game feeling new and exciting. The next pro is the variety of classes. You can choose from so many different classes, each with very unique abilities and playstyles. It really helps with the variety and keeping the gameplay fresh. The next pro is the very deep storyline. It is rich and really captivates you. And there's also a ton of side quests to explore that'll further enhance it. And the final pro is the immersive world. The world is beautiful and is crafted in a fantasy world with highly detailed landscapes and very well designed characters. And not only that, the graphics and the music work really well together to create a really engaging atmosphere. And now for the cons, and some of these are quite big. Now the first con is the subscription fee. If you're not playing this game, you will need to pay a monthly subscription, which could definitely be a downside for some players if you prefer free-to-play games. Although I would say that most MMORPG that say they are free-to-play are actually filled with a ton of paywalls and microtransactions, and finding a free-to-play MMO that's also good is very difficult. The next con is the quite complex mechanics, and there's a lot of them, which can be quite overwhelming if you're a new or more casual player, as it'll definitely take some time to learn all the systems and become proficient. And the final con is the grind. Some parts of the game can feel quite repetitive or grindy, especially when you're leveling up or farming for a specific item. But with all that said, let's grade the game. And Final Fantasy XIV Online gets a solid 9 out of 10 for me. The game truly excels in creating a really immersive world with both stunning graphics, sound, and a captivating storyline. Additionally, depth of the main story, coupled with the engaging side quests, can keep you invested for many hours. The game's regular updates and the variety of classes and customization options also provides a ton of fresh and dynamic experiences that'll cater to many different playstyles. Furthermore, the sense of community within the game is also a huge plus, as social interaction and teamwork is highly encouraged. However, the game is not perfect, and there are several drawbacks. The subscription fee can be a big deterrent if you're a new player, especially if you're used to free-to-play games. Additionally, the complexity of some of the game's mechanics can be very overwhelming, and will require a significant time investment to master the systems. Furthermore, the game can sometimes feel a bit repetitive, especially during the grindy parts of leveling leveling up or farming items, but despite these drawbacks, the overall experience is still so rewarding if you're dedicated to the game and learning the mechanics. So while the game might not be perfect, but if you enjoy detailed storylines, a really immersive world, and a ton of variety of gameplay options, and if you're willing to invest the time to learn the systems, this might be the perfect game for you, and it's well worth your time and money. For more amazing games, click here.